from the Heartland show with host Katie Hogan, Michael James, and Tom Clark.
We got a mind of our own. That's right. We can't go wrong if we...
Hey, and thank you, Keb Mo. Good morning, Chicagoland, and welcome to another edition of the Live from the Heartland show. This is Michael James with Tom Clark and Katie Hogan. And for the next hour, we're going to talk about some real important issues. We're going to hear some good music, and we're going to have a good time. So we hope you're already doing good in the world this morning. Stay tuned throughout the show. We'll cheer you up and motivate you. And
I don't know how much we'll cheer them up, actually, Michael.
Well, we might even get some people mad at us.
Well, yeah, we might.
What did you think of that debate the other night?
Well,
I hesitate using that word every time it comes up because it was a personality forum, but an intriguing
ask me
discussion.
a more specific question.
Were there any surprises seeing the 10 finalists in this?
No, there were no surprises. Okay, so
Well, there were a lot of people giving Mayor Pete accommodations for his military service. That came through to me, and I thought that Castro really went over the edge a little bit and hasn't been real good in responding to it. I do think Beto was good when he came forth with the thing about, yeah, we're going to take your guns. I got to say, I really like that. I think he took a bold stand, and everyone says that Elizabeth Warren did the best, and I think she probably did.
So did Biden rise to the occasion?
I don't think so. No, he was. He looked a little Botoxed to me. Is one thing, which is really too bad.
He was better in the first half.
He was better in the first half.
I think he was.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I mean, I don't have this antipathy for Biden that everybody now has because, and I'm sort of sick of the political conversation in this country, to tell you the truth. He did okay. What was that other question that you had up there?
Well, did any front runners shoot themselves in the foot?
Harris.
Michael spoke to...
Yeah, Castro.
Yeah.
I think that Kamala should leave the jokes to comedians unless she learns some timing or some funny jokes.
I was expecting, particularly from her, to see people trying out for the going toe-to-toe with Trump factor here, because that's the other thing that people are measuring. How will they do 10 months from now when they have to so-called debate the sitting president? And I don't know that she showed herself as someone who was ready to do that. She seemed to be off from what I was expecting after her first performance. I'm not picking on her here. I was expecting a little more sharp engagement than I saw her doing.
Nope, she didn't do anything real sharp that day. I think that the second tier people who distinguished themselves were I just forgot his name because I was thinking of something else. Beto did pretty well, except that he's never going to get elected to anything bigger in Texas, thanks to hell yes, I'm taking your guns. But God love him for that. I also thought that Mayor Pete did pretty well. I think Mayor Pete does well pretty much all the time.
He's very good on his feet.
He really is.
I have more problems with his actual positions, which he's taken, and I think we're ready for more than what I see as a kind of middle of the road thing.
Do you think his positions are a little soft, or he's positioning himself really to run for governor, which is the word
I can't
heard?
speak to any of that.
Okay.
That may be true, and he's a very attractive candidate. I understand why some progressive friends of mine in Indiana think we ought to be paying more attention to him, but he's not my guiding star at this point.
Okay, so I think that what we should pay attention to in a 3-hour event like it was. Of course, there were like 2 15-minute commercial breaks. It seemed like they were huge. In any case, I'm glad ABC, put them on and gave them 3 hours. The span of issues covered was somewhat impressive. I mean, they had gun control, racism, criminal justice system, healthcare, immigration, the trade war, the Afghanistan war, the Taliban deal, Venezuela, veterans, climate change, public education, child poverty rate. That's a lot, but then there were a bunch they didn't talk about.
And I would argue that there should have been a lot more time on climate change than they spent.
Of course, of course.
Did either of you see the ad where they attacked Ocasio-Cortez?
I heard about it after the fact, and
Who
we have
attacked her?
people.
Where-
A
who is it?
Republican group put out an attack ad that's very inflammatory, literally, and she burns up on the screen to
Oh,
the point where
jeez.
some people are calling for a boycott of ABC, who ran the ad. We'll see how that goes in our free exchange of ideas. But I was most intrigued and actually was quite tickled, showing my age, at Biden's reference to record players. And as someone with 600 LPs at home, he shouldn't forget, the candidates shouldn't forget those of us who still like real music.
Yeah, except for the fact that it was in his answer
Terrible
to
response.
deal with racism.
Right.
I mean, it was.
Talk about tone deaf.
Ugh. Okay, so but
Meanwhile-
they had a completely incomplete talk of immigration, wildly incomplete, and no discussion of the Muslim ban. There was also no reference to democracy reform. Gearing up for the 2020. Who's
Voter suppression.
who's looking at the Russians?
Russians
Who's keeping
stealing
an
our
eye on
votes.
social media vis-a-vis American voting?
The incumbents using the Russians to preserve their victory.
And surprise, surprise, we didn't talk about Israel or Palestine either.
No, really?
Yeah. Okay, so Democrats have a long way to go,
Do
but
you think they'll talk about it in the next debate? I doubt it.
nope, they don't talk about. We don't talk about that in America.
Well, it depends on whether there's another secret meeting with the Taliban, which, of course, Trump didn't get a chance to celebrate 9/11 by having his secret meeting at Camp David. But, boy, are people getting their upset about that one.
Oh yeah. Well,
Republicans in particular. But I want to give credit where credit is due. Getting rid of John Bolton makes us slightly less likely to be going to war in the Middle East, at least in the near term, I believe. Because I'm totally convinced that he went with Bolton in order to have that hard edge, to have that potential of going to war at any moment. And John just didn't get it.
he'll just name another goofball.
Stephen Miller might still get his war, but at the moment, John Bolton, the more prominent person, isn't going to get his way.
Israel is getting a free rein to steal more land from the Palestinians.
Yeah. Just outrageous.
It really is outrageous. And
And,
they clearly don't want a two-state solution.
No, absolutely. And the Supreme Court is allowing nationwide enforcement of the new Trump administration rule that prevents most Central American migrants from seeking asylum, despite ongoing legislation, to have to stop in the first country they pass through. I heard the Mexican response to that yesterday, and I was amazed that they didn't have any swear words to bleep. Those people are very upset with that.
So on the local front, the Progressive Bloc and the City Council put forward their blueprint for how they would solve the city's big budget deficit. Most of the ideas we've heard of before, but the first time they were kind of put all in one package. Taxing large corporations, imposing an income tax on high-earning commuters, and reforming TIFs and a few other things, including your lovely head tax that you love so much, and an increase in the real estate transfer tax, which the mayor wants to use for other purposes. I just wonder how successful this block of 10 aldermen, who certainly have a lot of solidarity, will be in actually pushing any of these revenue suggestions forward.
What does that mean, a tax on high-earning commuters?
This is the idea that New York now has, that if you are earning, I think the number that's being thrown around, over $100,000, there would be a commuter tax assessed. And the idea would be to go after suburban commuters coming downtown to work, but it's not clear yet what exactly the taxing authority would be, and obviously it would involve having to get state approval.
I predict problems with that one.
Yep.
A couple of events that are going to happen today. Actually, the budget forum with our mayor, number 2 of 4, is being held at Roberto Clemente High School today from 9 to 11. So
Right
after
now.
the show, you can go over there. And also, the the People's Law Office turns 50, and from 12 to 5 today, they are having a forum at the Luis Belvis Cultural Center, 4046 West Armitage.
And as you're listening to our show, you can, or right afterwards, you can join the 49th Ward Bike Ride this morning, which has just started from the Alderwoman's office at 1447 West Morris. It goes until noon today. There also is today a fascinating Brick of Rogers Park walking tour. You'll have to go online to Facebook to get more information about that from 2 to 4 during the afternoon today.
One of the big things I want to make sure while we're doing all these announcements, the global climate strike is scheduled for this Friday, and that's a youth-inspired strike, and it will be big. Downtown portion starts at Roosevelt and Columbus Drive at about 11 a.m., and there will be a march, I think, to the Federal Plaza when it's over. But it's something, if you want to support the activism of the young people who unfortunately are facing a pretty dastardly future climate-wise, you can join some of us North Side neighbors who are starting the climate change action out that morning at Hollywood and Sheridan Road. Big entry for commuters, as we were just speaking of, into the city for work, and hopefully making them conscious that this is something for all of us to activate on. So this is coming ahead of the United Nations Summit on Climate Change with world leaders convening in New York.
Go, Tom.
Also tomorrow, on September 15th, Sound Walk. Fascinating morning from 10 to 11:45 at the P.O. Box Collective, 6900 North Glenwood. Participatory budgeting starts its 10th year this week on September 16th at Willie White. We'll see initial proposals discussed. And finally, the neighborhood school town hall meeting at Eugene Field School on September 17th at 6:30.
Also today, the Free Street Theater is having a big gala fundraiser, and that is tonight at the Garfield Park Conservatory. It
Right.
starts around 8 or 9, I think. It's late. And tomorrow is the Glenwood Market and in our neighborhood. And Leonard Peltier, Native American activist, has been incarcerated now for 41 years. And
Incredible.
it's one of the saddest things about the Obama ending that he did not liberate him. I
That was
really can't believe he didn't do it.
Yep, can't believe he didn't do it either. I want to remember, like has been happening in a good way this week, an incredible activist and member of our community, Marka Bristow. Marka and I met when we first worked together to reelect Harold Washington in '87. I was so impressed by her, and then she wound up marrying one of the ward coordinators out of my office, and went on to create a beautiful family. We're thinking of you, Bob, and kids, and I know you know what she meant to all of us and to the world. What an amazing life. Bless you, Marka. Rest in power.
Marka touched so many people beyond just those in the disability community. She's literally affected thousands and thousands of lives. It's an incredible legacy. Proud to have been in the same city with her.
And like the mainstream news, we're covering the sports last. In the women's NBA, the Chicago Sky coach gained the Coach of the Year. The women are in the playoffs. The Cubs may still make the playoffs, and the Sox look good for next year.
Spoken like a true Sox fan.
If
Hitting
you
a
want
lot
to
of home
continue
runs.
the progressive legacy of our dear friend and neighbor David Orr, he has a gathering of progressives, including Mayor Lori Lightfoot, on Monday evening at the Bounce Sporting Club, 324 West Chicago Avenue. This ought to be a great gathering. Just about anyone who has tried to lay claim to the word progressive will be there. All your favorite elected officials and many, many others. It'll be a great event. And because of the new moon, we thought we'd celebrate a little bit what many consider to be the harvest moon, even though harvests are late this year. Take it away, James.